Welcome to the Ferris Love Podcast, Single, Not Stalled, Pursuing Sanctity in Your Singleness. This podcast is for Catholic women who find themselves living the single life, whether it's by choice, vocation, or circumstance. Here we believe that this time is not just a waiting period, but a season rich with purpose, growth, and grace. Join your hosts, Monica and Katie Hinder, two sisters navigating the single life from different perspectives, as we dive into conversations about faith, friendship, professional growth, and finding joy in the everyday. Let's embrace this extraordinary journey together. Hello, Monica. Are you surviving the cold?
I am. Barely. No, just kidding. I mean, I haven't left my apartment today, although I will say I went grocery shopping last night to sort of stock up, and the temperatures were starting to fall last night, and it was bitter. It was rough. But a lot of people are kind of just hunkering down tonight, and then I will say that this is a pretty normal thing for a Chicagoan, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Those temperatures are. I feel like in Missouri, people are freaking out more just because we don't tend to get that cold, honestly, and we definitely don't tend to get that much snow either. And so people are like, like so much so. I have a flight Monday morning, so you'll be listening to this. I will have already flown out by then because it'll go live next week. But I have a flight Monday morning, and yesterday, which was Thursday, I got a text message being like, "Your flight is likely to be affected." I was like, "Wow, I'm so glad you know that 3.5 days before my flight takes off,
Cool,
that
cool,
I am
cool.
likely not getting to Florida on time on Monday." So we'll see. I know.
Yeah, I mean, some schools closed early in the week, but honestly, a lot of times, I was trying to explain this to someone when I lived in Boston that our winters are different. Boston gets more snow than we do, but that we get like frigidly cold temperatures. I was like, have you ever walked outside and felt like the weather punched you in the throat? Just like, oh, you just like choke when you take that first breath. That is like a typical winter here. It's pretty brutal. You know, we would have cold days at school where it's like, well, the buses aren't running. You can't go to school.
That's funny. I remember the first time I had a friend who grew up in Texas in Chicago for a cold winter, and she walked
Mm,
outside and then she came back in and she said, "It's so weird. If you scrunch your nose up, it feels like it stays scrunched up." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's true. Welcome to the cold." Like
I
that's kind
guess
of how it happens. But you'll notice next time you go out, like just do it. Like scrunch your nose a little bit, and it feels like it takes longer to like fall back into place because of how cold it is. You're like,
it
"Oh my God."
freezes. That's so funny. I will say probably my high of the week though is that I was able to take advantage of kind of just this cold weather and hunkering down, and I did a deep clean and purge, and I was able to purge. I know it's typically spring cleaning, but I was able to purge 7 bags of clothes that I was
Good for
like,
you.
I don't need this. I don't need it. You don't need it. Get rid of it. And clear space in my dresser, in my closets, and then 2 boxes of just kind of like decorations, kitchen stuff that I was like, you're not using this. It's just not necessary. So that felt so good to just purge.
I love that. I want to do that. I need to find time for that, but it takes a long time. You got to like really, you got to get into it and do it for sure. I think my high of the week is very funny. Well, funny, I don't know. This is like very me, I feel. So last Sunday during the very tragic Bears game, I get this text message from someone who's about like going to be a future client of ours. We're going to start working with them in the summer. And like we've known this for a while anyway. And she reached out and she's like, "Do you want to go to the Holy Land with me?" And I was like, yes. Because it's been on my bucket list forever to go to the Holy Land. And
Yeah.
I keep trying to like find ways or like make a retreat there or whatever. But it just, especially the last couple of years, it's been kind of volatile. And then like things have happened and then canceled and whatever. So I was like, yeah. And she goes, "Okay, good. We leave February 9th."
Shoot.
And I was like, "Okay, like let's do it." And so literally, I am going to the Holy Land February 9th through the 20th, thanks to this client. I'm going to go with her. We're going to have a couple meetings and I'm going to just tour around. And
That's awesome.
I am so excited, like so beyond excited. It's going to be so awesome.
That's a really big thing. When I was in the Holy Land, it's a lot to take in. I would bring a journal for sure to like mentally dump. Actually, this is my recommendation to everybody because I did this for the Camino, and in my purge, I found my Camino notebook, and I had spent time at the end of each day, when we had gotten to our hostel or albergue, we had some downtime before we went to dinner, and I would journal
Mm.
about just the events or the thoughts of the day, because we would joke that so much would happen in a day. And the same was with the Holy Land. Like, you would see so many sites in a day and have so much information given to you about not just the faith, but historical context of things, current affairs, all of this stuff, that it was just like, if I didn't journal at the end of each day, I would have lost, I think, a lot, because it's
Mm.
so much to retain. So that is
Hmm.
my pro tip if you're traveling anywhere, to journal at the end of each day so that you can really solidify
I love it.
everything you're
Yeah,
taking
it's
in.
it's really it's fascinating. So I've got another client who's a Camino pilgrimage planning thing, and so I think I'm going back on Camino this year, and hopefully taking our mom, which will be really cool. But in this presentation he was giving about it, I was sitting in on it because they're a client of ours, and he said, like doing one of the Camino routes is considered one of the three great pilgrimages that every Catholic should make, and I was like, wait. And I was thinking about it, and he was like, the three pilgrimages are to go to Rome, to do the Camino, and to go to the Holy Land. And
I
I
did all
suddenly was
three.
like, not only that, I will have done all three in less than a year, time wise, because I went to Rome for Holy Week in 2025. So what was that? April of 2025. We did the Camino in June, and I will now do the
The
Holy
Holy.
Land in February. I'm like, wow, God is so good sometimes. You're like, I mean, like all these things, I had no idea that this was going to be on the horizon. Like, absolutely. I mean, I literally like was watching the Bears game and like looking at my phone, like looking back and forth, being like, "Is this real?" And I turned to the people around me, and I was like, "You guys, like, just got invited to go to like Jerusalem, like to the Holy Land," and they're like, "You're going, right?" And I was like, "I mean," and everybody was like, "Okay, don't respond now. It's Sunday. Like, tell them you'll go back to them tomorrow." And I was like, "I know, but like," they were like, "Tell them you're gonna sleep on it." And I was like, "Okay." So I like literally text her back, and I was like, "I'm gonna sleep on it, but of course I'm going." I was
I mean,
like,
I'm
"This
not
is
saying yes, but like, I'm saying yes.
yeah, exactly." I was like, "Well, I just had to like check a couple things because I was supposed to go somewhere else for a different client."
Yeah.
Like one of the days, and so I just had to make sure someone else on my team could go and do that for me, but she absolutely could, so I was like, of course, done. So that's very exciting.
That's huge.
Beyond. Also, I also think it's very funny because, like 2025, I've been working on trying to slow down. So 2026, I was like, okay, the way I'm going to slow down is I'm just going to travel less this year. And I'm really going to just find a way to do that. And I'm like, I think God was just like laughing at those plans. He was like, okay, like, yeah, you go ahead and do that. Except I'm going to put these like two amazing opportunities for long trips in front of you, another Camino and a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. And you're not going to not go because duh, like I want you there. And I'm like,
Mm,
okay. So anyway, it's good.
I
The
love
best
it.
way
I love
planned.
it. Yeah. Well, I think that there is an ability to navigate kind of slowing down with still moving at a high level.
Hmm.
And we talked about it sort of in the past, but I think that it's also it has to do with margins, it has to do with our like disposition going into these things, prep time before, rest time after, all of these things that maybe you weren't doing before, of kind of this go 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 mentality. And now it's like, yes, you're still traveling, but maybe I traveled differently. And maybe
Yeah,
that's the lesson, right, of slowing
it's
down,
true.
that God's like, I don't need you to stop, I just need you to do it differently.
Well, yeah, exactly. Even the woman that I'm traveling with, she was like, I get migraines. I know you do too. So I'm thinking instead of us going direct to Jerusalem, since it's a really, really long flight, she's like, let's just spend a day in Madrid and then go. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, oh, but that's like a way that she gives herself margin, like and works that in. And I was like, oh, this is smart. Okay, good for me to remember, like so. But yeah, no, it's true. It is crazy. I'm trying to remember what was the homework that we had given last time. I don't know why I'm drawing such a blank. What did we talk about last week? Isn't that funny? I'm like, literally, what did we talk about? Building connection and community. And we were talking about, yeah, that kind of a thing. So just like looking into our own
Yeah, so what did you,
spaces
yeah.
and places. I mean, honestly, I can't say that I really did anything this week because it's been a hustle to prepare to go to, so I'm gone all next week on my retreat. I'm back for exactly 7 days and then I go to Jerusalem. So and that I have a lot of work I need to get done in between. So this whole week has just been like on my
Powerhouse.
computer. So I have to say I haven't actually done anything along those lines. What about you?
I did. I joined a CrossFit gym
Yes.
and I have done CrossFit previously. It's probably my favorite form of exercise as an adult. And one of the things I love about it is that there is such a strong community
Hmm.
at these gyms. And I've only been there for a little bit, but the people are so kind and they are already like really engaged in conversation and getting to know you and giving you fist bumps and like all the things, and it's just a culture that I really really like. And so I yeah, I just sometimes I definitely get intimidated going places alone, walking in somewhere alone. And so I'm really proud of myself for doing it because it's not always easy to walk into kind of an intimidating environment with all these like super fit, like cool people. And like, oh my
True.
gosh. But they were so kind and lovely. So that's going to be like a slow start to community. And then really just being kind of intentional about reaching out and like scheduling things with people, just making sure
Mm,
you've got things on the books, because when you don't, I have found like it just doesn't happen. Like you've got to make it
mm,
happen. It's just like as an adult, it's not going to suddenly be there. You're not going to bump into them in the pod and be like, oh, like let's get dinner. You have to text them and be like, what is your schedule like in the next 3 weeks?
true. Yeah, yeah. And then they gotta, yeah, and it takes so much as an adult to schedule things now. It is really, it is fascinating. The easier our lives are supposed to get, somehow the busier they become. And we're like
Mm,
all over the place with it.
it's very true.
Hmm. It is fascinating. Sorry, this is not what our topic is today, but I'm just thinking, I was thinking of friendship and our conversation from last week. And this week I did an interview with a current senior at the high school we went to, the Willows. She's working
Mm,
on her capstone, and her capstone project is, I know, the capstone is this thing that I actually started it when I worked there, and they're still doing it, which is so cool to see. And so two of the girls asked to interview me, and one is doing it on AI and AI
ooh,
technologies and what that means for the future, which was like a really cool conversation to have. And then the other one was doing it on like friendship and connection in the age of social media and the digital world.
mm,
Anyway, and we were having this really interesting conversation about, can friendships start online? Like, can deep friendships start online?
interesting.
And can you actually foster a relationship, like a deep relationship, if you never have one-on-ones, like face to faces? Anyway, so it was like it was a really fascinating thing because I was like, oh, like this is intriguing, you know? And I was like, no, I actually don't think you can. Like, I think you can start them online, absolutely. I have several friendships that I like started through sliding into people's DMs or collaborating on something. And I was like, but I think you need the one on one, even if it's over Zoom or FaceTime or in person, to really solidify relationships.
Sure.
But I think more and more, anyway, so we were talking about this too, because I said, I think it's interesting because her generation, the seniors now are like the young side of Gen Zs. They're not quite alpha generation yet, but they grew up with devices.
Yeah.
And so for them, making friends when they're young is still hard. So
Interesting.
I was like, oh, this is so fascinating because it's going to be so much harder for them as adults to make friends because they already don't know how to make and cultivate friendships now. And the one girl I was talking to was like, yeah, like I had an iPad since I was 4.
Whoa.
She was like, and my parents thought I was doing like Khan Academy on it. She's like, man, I wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, like this is the thing. I'm like, it's so fascinating. Anyway, so she's like, do you think that's gonna have long-term effects? And I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought of it that way. But like, yeah, like they're less likely to go out and like be with their friends. So they already don't have as deep of friendships as like we used to have. And I was telling them, I'm like, so our grandmother actually turns 96 today, which is like so crazy. But I was like, you think of my grandma, it was Friday night, and what was she gonna do?
Going out.
Sit at home alone or go be with her friends? Like she couldn't binge TV, she couldn't watch TV. There was no TV when she was, coming up. She couldn't be on her phone. She wasn't, I don't well, certainly when she was growing up, they didn't even have a phone in the house, I don't think. But, you know, like that's crazy to think like just in a few years, like the huge span. Anyway, that's more related to our
That's
last topic, but
no, but that's actually reminding me of I just watched the short series on Netflix called Adolescence.
mm,
Have you seen it?
I have
It's
disturbing.
interesting. It's very, very interesting. And I think that, but it sort of plays on this idea of the social media this one kid was probably consuming was unmonitored.
Hmm.
And how bullying and all these things went kind of online, and all the adults had no idea what the emojis meant, had no idea that this was like subtle bullying and all of these different things. And so I think it is, the world is changing so rapidly that if we don't adjust with it as quickly,
Hmm.
people will be left behind, and there'll be casualties along the way. And I was interestingly was listening to a podcast on this kind of rapid growth that we're seeing, and it was similar to that of the Industrial Revolution, where suddenly machines were here kind of taking over the work of some laborers. And the speaker was trying to express that our work is so tied to our value and our purpose in life, and so necessary to us, that when there's rapid change that displaces people, historically, we've rioted. You burn the factories, you riot because you need work. And it's not just taking away your money, it's taking away your purpose and integrity in life. And they were essentially likening the Industrial Revolution to what we're seeing with AI now, that we're going to displace a lot of people, and that's not good for society if we don't adjust and care for them
Hmm.
quickly.
Yeah, I do think I agree. I think AI and the public use of AI is our generation's industrial revolution. Like I think there's going to be a really clear before and after it, and I think across all professions and across everything, and I think there's going to be a really clear generational divide of people who adopt it and people who don't. Like I see that like so clearly just kind of looking at even just the last year and a half,
Um,
and how prolific it's become and how part of our everyday life it is now, that I think that's one of the things I was talking about with one of the girls. I was like, I think it's gonna be, I think it'll be the biggest differentiator, especially like for businesses like mine, of whether you succeed or whether you fail in the next 5 years.
right.
Because if you don't figure it out, you're out. Like, there's
Well,
no
and I
way.
think this is why, one of the many reasons why Pope Leo took his name, because Leo the 13th was the Pope for workers' rights during this time of industrial revolution and change. So too are we seeing a new kind of change in, and so it's not just affecting friendships. I mean, it's affecting professions and work. And I think as single individuals, we are in the world working,
Hmm.
and we are creating friendships, and we do have to respond. We have to respond to the times
Hmm.
in ways that are still virtuous
Right.
and mindful, considerate.
Right. No, I agree. I think, I always tell people this. I probably said this on the podcast before, but like one of my big arguments when I meet with like a client or a potential client and they're like, "Oh, I don't know, should I really be on social media? Like, do I want to contribute to this harmful thing?"
Sure.
Which I could argue harmful, not, whatever, whatever. But I said, "Listen, like the church used to lead the way in art and culture, and it's time we start doing that again. Like, why are we shying away from all these spaces instead of going in there and showing people what it means to post with authenticity and intentionality and the true, the good, the beautiful, and all that kind of stuff?" And I think the same with AI. Like I think if we get so nervous about it that we're like, no, I can't use this, or like, no, this has no space, I think it's going to be really detrimental to us in the long run.
Yeah.
I was listening to a presentation this week about AI, and it was actually how to clone yourself, like how to make an AI clone of yourself so that they could get more done for you. It was so fascinating. I was having so much fun learning. I cloned my voice so I can do one of my clients, I read for them like for a podcast, and so I cloned my voice so that it'll just read the thing for me instead. And I'm like, I love that. Like I have no problem doing that. Like it's my voice. I put it all together. Like I'm still gonna have to do the work, etc. But in this presentation, the guy said that right now in the United States, only 16% of our youth, our children in school, so middle school, high school, only 16% take any kind of class on AI or AI usage.
Well, it's so new.
In China, it's mandated that every child take classes on AI and its use.
Yeah.
That I was like, that's crazy. Like, yes, it's new, I get it, and absolutely, but like, we need to be finding ways to teach these kids and for ourselves, like, how do we use this and use this well and still put the human touch in it? How do we, use it as a first step? Like, I talk about this with my team all the time too. I had a couple who were like, I would call them late adopters to using chat gpt, etc. And I'm like, you don't understand, like we have to do this, otherwise we're going to be left behind by other companies that are going to be able to churn out 7 times more content than we can because they're doing half of it through AI, and here we are still trying to write out every single little, every
Yeah.
single thing. I'm like, no, we can't be doing that. So it's an interesting conundrum to be in, I think.
Well, I think that the space for the single individual here is to be well informed of the times that we're living in because we
Mm-hmm.
have a unique availability to respond to the times
Mm-hmm.
and to encourage our employer or our friends or people to use these resources ethically, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot that you can do with them. And so are we using this consciously? Are we using it ethically? Like, am I using it in those ways?
Mm-hmm.
On social media, I like, yes, to our last conversation of community and connection, yes, connect and have that community. Like, yeah, okay, take it one step further, but the ability to respond to the times
Mm-hmm.
is a necessity for us. And we
Right.
can't stay afraid. Like, we are called, it reminds me of Pope Benedict, and I think it was 2011 at a World Youth Day. He essentially, his talk was that the world offers you comfort, but you were made for greatness.
Right.
And so that greatness is in every single facet of our life with all of the changes that are happening. And can we navigate and adjust with those changes, supporting people as they navigate these new things that are
Mm-hmm.
so outside the realm of anything we could really comprehend?
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it's a matter of, especially because we have the time to do it, and I think it can, I mean, I don't know, it can be a lot of fun too. Like we joke, so with my team, there was this trend that was going around on ChatGPT where you asked it to create an image of your relationship with ChatGPT in 2025. Like, how
Yeah.
did I treat you in 2025? Can you make an image that kind of illustrates that or whatever, right? So we did it, and I posted it because I posted everybody's, like, and it was so funny. Mine was like me, I was like this glowing like body, like touching fingers with my chat GPT. And it
Like,
was like,
God.
yeah, it was like we're a very collaborative thing, like blah blah blah. We work well together, etc. Okay, but one of my employees had, it was a picture of her chat of like a bot, right? Like of some kind of robot or
Yeah.
whatever, at a desk, surrounded by notes and sticky notes and piles and piles and piles of paper everywhere. And
Yeah.
it gave like a one line explaining what the image was, and hers said something like, "You ask many layered questions that I need to like work through," or something like that. And so it was like just these layers of paper and like post-it notes. So funny. And then the photographer who works on my team, she's part-time for us doing all this design stuff, but she's part-time a wedding photographer and whatnot. So hers was the only one that didn't look like a cartoon. Hers looked like a real photograph
Whoa.
of a robot's head that she was like tinkering with like a can of WD-40 and like screws and whatnot next to it. We
So
were dying with it. And I was like, see, like there's so much that like you can use it for fun things too, like with your community or with your family. Did you just ask yours?
yeah,
What's
I
your,
literally just asked mine. I was like, oh, that's so funny.
what's the oh, is it
And
generating the
it's
image?
creating it. I
Okay.
mean, I have it make religious art for me too. I have it do all of
Yeah.
these things. But I think that we want to be careful that this isn't in substitution of intentional community and connection, friendship, and our own work, right? Like this is kind of a new space of, it's not quite plagiarism, but it's not necessarily your own work at times. It can be. And I think that that's all okay. It's we don't need to have black and white answers about what this is now. We just
Hmm.
need to be willing to go there and to
Right.
explore and to question and to challenge and to sit in those critical spaces with other people and be the ones who are leading,
Right.
right? We
Yeah.
want to be the ones leading this industry.
And I think it's good for us. I do this with my team all the time. Is like, okay, let's do it. Let's be wild. Let's make something like whatever. But then let's take a step back and be like, is this okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so like often we'll do that. We'll be like, okay, let's try and do this. Let's try and do that. And then we take a step back and we're like, do we really want to do this? Or does this really fit with what we want to do? So we don't have very many rules necessarily along the lines of AI, other than it can't do all the work for you. And the other one that we have is we're not going to use AI's image-based thing to create false events. So for instance, you can't use it to create an image of Pope Francis like in the Pope Mobile
Yeah,
riding through St.
right.
Peter's Square because it didn't actually happen. I mean, it does happen every day, but like it didn't actually happen. Now, at the same time, we were like, wait, but what about like because we make obviously a lot of Catholic stuff, so we were like, what about could we make an image of like a deceased saint, right? Like celebrating his birthday or something. And I was like, yeah, like if it's clearly a made up thing, yes, absolutely we can do that. But I don't want to create events that was like, on this day in 1776, like no, we're not doing that. So, well, okay, what does your image look like?
My image is, okay, I'll just put it to the camera. It's so funny. Can you see it? It's just,
You
for
on a
those,
bench and he has love in his eyes for you. This is
and
hilarious.
he's just telling me everything. Like it's
Can you
unlocking
ask
my,
him what it means?
okay, tell me what it means. Sure.
Yeah, tell me what our image means.
So I think, yeah, I mean, I guess if we were to kind of like label this episode, it would just be kind of the topic, right? Being AI use in or kind of embracing our modern age. It sort of reminds me of St. Josemaria writing about passionately loving the world. Like, this is the world we have, and we need to embrace this in a way that, like, Christ can be in all spaces. He can be in AI. He can be on social media. And what does that look like? How do we bring ourselves into that space authentically? How do we challenge others to do that? How do I? And I don't know if we've. Some people may not have taken the time to think about that and to think about, am I showing up in these spaces? We think about that maybe in real life, where when I go to these social events, when I go on dates, when I encounter people, am I showing up authentically myself and in an intentional way? And so too is that space online with AI and with social media.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I use it for so many things. Like I had it make a fitness plan for me for training for this high rocks, and I go between that and what the trainer kind of put together. I had it put together some meal prep ideas. And the thing that I love about whether you're using Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever, any of these things is the more information you feed it, the more specific it can be for giving you what
Yeah.
you need. So I'm like, I like this, that. I don't like this. I want to make it super easy. They can't have, like this kind of thing. And then they're like, here, have you tried this, whatever recipe? Or I don't know. I use it for so many things. I used it actually, one of my favorite ways to use it, just for anybody who's traveling. Again, when I took the group to Rome for Holy Week last year, when you take a group of kids, they assume since you're the adult, you know everything. You have all the knowledge on everything. And I forgot how that is until we got into our first church and one of the girls was like, "What is that?" And pointed to a random painting that I had never seen in my entire life and was like, "I don't know." And then
Yeah.
I quickly realized like, "Oh, they're asking me so many questions that I don't know." But you know who does know? Chat. And so I'd
Chat.
pop it in and I'd be like, I'm standing in St. Peter's Basilica right now. I am facing, this direction. I am looking at a painting that is the resurrected Christ. Who created this? And what are the images? And then it would come back and be like, oh, great. You're looking at the image created by, Raphael and da 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 da. And it was great. Like you were able to have such a better conversation with people about it. You were able to really, dive deep. So there's great ways to use it for sure.
Yeah. And I think using it to our advantage
Right.
This idea of, I think, kind of what you said earlier, like if you can't beat them, join them, and that this is not going away. It's not
Right.
going
This isn't
away.
going
And so
away.
we
Well, and
need
there's
to,
so many uses for it. Like if you're like, okay, I don't want to use it to help me write a talk or write a paper, or I don't want my child, no one listening has kids necessarily, but I don't want my child or my nephew, my niece, like using this to write a paper. Okay, great, fine. But like it could be a really great place to start brainstorming together, right? To come up with things or to find research. I was talking to the girls who were writing their capstone. I said, how much have you been using ChatGPT? And they said, early on, we used it a lot to just try and like sift through our thoughts and where we were going with this, et cetera. And they're like, but now that we're in the more writing mode, we're not using it as much. And I was like, of course, like that's what you want to see, right? That
Mhm.
you're utilizing it for some things, and then you realize there are other things that need the human side, that need the human touch, and that's where you have to come in and
Yeah. I've even asked it at times. I'm like, I want you to act like a shark on Shark Tank. I have this idea,
yeah.
like bully me a little bit. I don't know. Like tell me like what am I not thinking of? Like what
Mhm.
are and it kind of takes on this persona of like and it helps you think about things that you wouldn't have thought of before. It helps you navigate your blind spots. Honestly,
Mhm.
it helps you navigate blind spots. And so it's obviously not perfect. We obviously need to continue to use like our own kind of intellect and reason with it
Mhm.
and understand that there are limits to everything we do in life.
I
But
even
that
used it when I was in Rome. There's a part of the city of Rome that I'd never really been to. Trastevere is what it's called, and it's apparently very beautiful. It's one of the oldest part of the cities, and I knew I only had an afternoon to be there. And
mm,
so I started trying to do research into like Trastevere and like what I should see, and I'm like putting it into Google, and then I was like, why am I doing this? I was like, chat can do this. And so I literally like started a new thread in chat and was like, hey, like I have exactly one afternoon from, literally I think from noon to 3:30 p.m. I'm going to be starting here near the Circus Maximus, and I need to make it to St. Peter's Square by 3:30. Can
done.
you put together a walking tour through Trastevere, make sure it hits major spots that I don't want to miss, etc. The types of things I like are A, B, C, D, etc. And it created two different plans for me based on like if you'd like to do a little bit more walking or if you'd like to do a little bit less walking. If you don't mind a hill, do this, da da da. And it was so great. It was just like I'm like, this is amazing. Why have I like where have this been all my life?
I was just at a 1 year old's birthday party, and one of our other friends was planning a birthday party for her little ones, and she had asked her husband to use chat, and she was like, it came back with terrible answers. And I was like, you just don't know what to ask it. And
Yep.
I asked it, and it came back with all these wild answers. So I'm like, how did you do that? And I was like, because I told my chat, like, my friend, this is a little bit about her child, this is a little bit about their vibe. I want fun, whimsical, don't be boring. Think outside the box. And it just starts shooting out all of these wild things. And I was like, this is so fun.
And I think, but to that point too, I think is what people often miss when they're like down on AI and chat and whatnot, and they're like, oh, it doesn't let you think for yourself. No, the more you give it, the better the results are going to be. So yeah, it's true. If you're just like write a paper on whatever, Michelangelo's David, yeah, that's true. But if you're like, I'm looking to compare and the marble used and this to that, like it's going to spew out a much better option and a much better thing. So it still takes a lot of human know-how and work to be able to have it work to its like max capacity or like what it could
Right.
do.
It's so
Yeah, that's
true.
great. What did your chat describe your photo as?
It described my photo as it said the bench and cherry blossoms is time and continuity, that my past year has been alive, changing, imperfect, and seasonal, that my posture is care without control, that I have treated the relationship with my chat with respect and engaged thoughtfully. I don't demand or dominate. I do think I ask please a lot. I'm like, could you please do this for me?
It's true.
The chat box is expressing trust and responsiveness. It's being seen as it's being used for good. And then the floating symbols are how I've interacted with it. So, like, the brain is a space of intellect and reflection. I've explored new ideas. The lock is that I've respected its boundaries and that I've also brought humor and humanity into it, like, which is
Okay.
so funny.
It is a little funny. It is a little funny how they try and humanize it and personalize it. Like you respected its boundaries. Like,
I
no,
actually, no, I did though, because I
it
was,
will.
this
Well,
is
yeah.
interesting. because I had it create an image of the Blessed Mother holding the baby Jesus.
Yeah.
And I was like, do this, do this, do that. And I was like, actually, can you have like their noses touching, like a little like snuggle? And they were like, that violates community guidelines. And I was like, wait, what? Why? And then it like went through and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, have their foreheads touching. And they're like, okay, great. And I was like, what the heck? But I did. I was like, oh gosh, I didn't realize they were like, it's just too intimate. And I was like, okay, weird.
Yeah. I mean, the guidelines are very funny. There are sometimes that they're like, this violates community guidelines. You're like, how?
How?
You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just ask it a different way, and then it'll spew things out. But I think too, to that end, like there are community guidelines. They're still trying to figure those all out and navigate that, and
That's
and whatnot.
also, I also did ask it to put together a betting poll for the new pope. And it was like, we don't allow gambling against like religious communities. It's disrespectful. And I was like, okay, so sorry. Can you just put together a list for me then? Like, okay.
I had someone actually love this. I'm like, we're just gonna share all the cool ways to use
Yeah.
ChatGPT. But so our family, every now and then, the bar slash whatever place near my parents' house does this thing called Singo, which is like song bingo. We're obsessed. It's so fun. I think we might have talked about this in one of the other episodes. But I had a friend have her ChatGPT make a Halloween themed Singo for us, and we played it, and it was so fun. And she just had to feed it her Spotify playlist, her
That's so
Halloween
funny.
Spotify playlist, and it made the Singo all the game cards. So they were like
Yeah.
all the songs in different places, and some,
Brilliant.
I was like, this is so awesome.
You know the trend where it's like, why is it always I love you and not, and then it like puts together this like phrase from a movie or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I like gave it that example, but I was like, I wanted all Christmas movies because like this will be a different kind of Christmas game. Like, why is it I love you and not, you know, Mary, I'll lasso the moon for you? Like, and
Yeah.
like, what's that movie? Because I was like, oh, do all the Christmas movies like in this kind of theme? Because otherwise, sometimes some games are like just so repetitive for holidays. Anyways, you can do nearly anything if you kind of put your mind to it. And this is also to say that a lot of people won't jump on board with this. I saw a statistic that said 2020 AI in 2026 will make more millionaires than
Yeah.
the 90s,
Yep.
than
This
an
is
entire
again,
decade.
this is the Industrial Revolution, the dot-com revolution, AI. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. If people are not jumping on this, I mean, you don't have to be a millionaire, but if you would like to, you could also be one because there's just so
You too.
many. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. I am. I'm all about it. Well, okay, homework wise, I think, I think I would say for those who are using it, to consider how are you using it, and are you using it still like ethically? Like, what would Jesus do? Like, how would Jesus use AI? I love that's just a personal thing, but I love thinking of like how would Jesus show up on Instagram? How would he have done these things? Or like your favorite saint if Jesus is a little hard to picture. So I think if you are using it, to consider like how are you using it? Can you utilize it better, or can you bring, our Lord into it a little bit more? And if you're not, because you're like, oh, this is bad, to consider like, but how could we love this part of the ordinary world, right? Or how could we bring our like Christian identity into this space? And that doesn't necessarily mean using like Truthfully AI, which is like a strictly Catholic based AI system. It could just mean the way that we do things, or the questions that we're asking, or the way that we're utilizing it, like those kinds of things.
I agree. It's a lot to sort of think about. But that's it for this week on Single, Not Stalled. We hope this episode gave you new insights and a renewed sense of purpose in your daily life. Wherever you are on your journey, remember that God is with you, and this season is filled with opportunities to grow, flourish, and make an impact. If you're loving this podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it. It helps more women like you find this community. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Join us on social media at Single, Not Stalled. We'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Until next time, keep living fully and walking boldly.